Well, another man picked up a significant honor at the Hall of Fame this year. That's Harold Brasington, the 2016 Landmark Award winner. It was Brasington that created the one-of-a-kind track here at Darlington to host NASCAR's first 500-mile race. That was back in 1950, folks. He passed away in 1996, but his legend certainly lives on.
This isn't Harold's first time driving by Darlington Raceway. He's a local. In fact, he has taken a few laps around the track with his granddad.
One afternoon, we were driving by the track, and he knew the guard, and the guard waved him in. And next thing I knew, we were at the top of the old turn one, picking up speed.
You see, Harold's granddad is Harold Brasington.
He took us around for a couple of laps and then just pulled out the gate, and he pulled over into a parking lot, and he said, "Don't tell Mama." That's what he called my grandmother.
It was Brasington's vision that put this egg-shaped raceway in the middle of a cotton field back in the 1950s. You know what it looks like now. It's different. Back then, this was the garage. This was the grandstand. This was the front stretch, the scoreboard, and the press box. It was Brasington that brought big-time racing to South Carolina, to Darlington.
There's no good reason. It's his hometown. He wanted it in his hometown. He had 6 other guys in the room, and he said, "We're going to build a super speedway here in Darlington." Well, they thought he was crazy, but they also knew it was a great opportunity, and they didn't want to miss out on it.
He wasn't just an idea guy, though.
He wanted to be the one in the truck, on the earth-moving equipment, building his dreams.
So that's what he did, without any formal education or training.
He jokingly said, "I've got 27 years of education. I went to 9th grade 3 times.
In 1949, he and his crew got started on one of NASCAR's most unique tracks, that shape, which later became Brasington's signature. It didn't happen on purpose, though.
It's, infamously called the egg because it's smaller on one end, and it was a happy accident that happened. The engineer had to reduce the radius on one end to make it fit on the plot because the original owner of the property stipulated that the minnow pond that Sherman Ramsey got his bait fish from had to stay.
A year later, Darlington Raceway hosted on Brasington's ability to build, but the same couldn't be said for his business decisions.
They were just making it up as they went. In the old days, it was pandemonium and confusion here at the first race.
A few years later, he was removed as the track's president.
I think he never got over it completely. So for a long period, he was estranged from, one of the most important things in his life. Granddad was a man of action. He didn't really like to talk about things that he'd done in the past. He was just a dreamer that wanted to build the next project.
So he moved on. He built more tracks around the Southeast.
He took that inspiration and applied it to all his future creations to make things, challenging and interesting.
As we are a half a lap away from the green flag.
But Darlington was his first, and it was his home.
He never talked about building the racetrack, but I think he was still proud of it, even though he wasn't associated with it any longer.
As time went on, his family grew.
I got to come into the infield and see what the infield looked like in the 1970s when it was kind of a dangerous and wild place. I had to stay in the car and just look from the window at what was going on in the pits.
But his granddad didn't stay for the races.
I think that it was maybe a matter of pride that he didn't want to buy a ticket at his own racetrack and didn't want to go in and ask for a ticket, and he would pull out of the tunnel and go home and watch the race on TV.
And we want to thank